Hello and welcome. The hum of bound air elementals resonates beneath your feet as tons of enchanted metal glide forward at speeds that would have seemed impossible to your ancestors. You feel the gentle vibration of conductor stones, their repulsion forces lifting you mere inches above the track, while propelling you across the continent of Khorvaire faster than any horse, any caravan, any vessel conceived before the lightning rail transformed everything. This is not merely transportation. This is the culmination of centuries of arcane innovation. The marriage of House Cannith's engineering genius with House Orion's mastery of passage and travel. The story of how this came to be begins not with a single inventor's breakthrough, but with generations of experimentation, collaboration between dragon-marked houses, and the kind of vision that defines epics. Before we descend into the lore, please consider subscribing to the channel. It is the surest way to find your path back to our library of lore when you wake. Section 1. The Lightning Rail's Genesis and Magical Engineering. The foundations of the lightning rail stretch back to the early 9th century, when the rulers of United Galifar sought ways to better connect their vast kingdom. You understand that House Orion, blessed with the mark of passage, had long dominated overland travel through courier services and caravan operations. Their dragon-marked heirs could teleport short distances, and their mundane operations moved goods and messages across thousands of miles. But even the most efficient caravan took weeks to traverse the continent, and teleportation magic, while spectacular, could only move small groups across limited distances. The dream of rapid continental transit seemed perpetually out of reach, a challenge that would require revolutionary thinking. The breakthrough came in 811 year of the kingdom, when House Cannith, bearers of the mark of making and masters of artifice, partnered with House Orion and the elemental binders of Zilargo to construct the first lightning rail line. This collaboration brought together 3 distinct areas of expertise that, when combined, produced something unprecedented in Khorvaire's history. House Cannith provided the arcane engineering and construct design, drawing on their deep understanding of magical theory and artifice. House Orion contributed their knowledge of overland routes, logistics, and the management systems needed to operate continental-scale transportation. The gnome artificers of Zilargo, renowned for their skill in elemental binding, supplied the crucial techniques for capturing and directing elemental forces. The heart of their innovation lay in what came to be known as conductor stones. You run your hand along the polished interior of a lightning rail coach, knowing that beneath the elegant wooden paneling and comfortable seats lies a network of these remarkable constructs. Conductor stones are Kyber dragon shards, those deep blue crystals found in the depths of Kaiba itself. each containing a bound air elemental trapped within a carefully crafted arcane matrix. The process of creating these stones represents some of the most sophisticated elemental binding work ever attempted, requiring weeks of preparation and the coordinated efforts of multiple artificers working in perfect synchronization. Picture the binding process as it unfolds in specialized workshops maintained by House Orion across the Lightning Rail network. An air elemental, summoned from its native plane through powerful conjuration magic, manifests as a swirling vortex of wind and barely visible energy. Artificers bearing dragon marks, some from House Cannith with the mark of making, others trained in Zalargo's elemental arts, step forward with prepared Kyber dragon shards held in enchanted containment vessels. They begin the binding ritual, arcane energy flowing from their marks. As they weave the complex magical structures that will trap the elemental within the crystal. The air in the chamber crackles with power as the elemental resists confinement. But the artificer's skill prevails, compressing the creature's essence into the dragon shard, where it will remain bound for years, even decades. But what makes conductor stones truly revolutionary is not the binding itself. Elemental binding was already well understood by 811 years of the kingdom. The innovation lies in how these stones interact with each other when placed in proximity. Each conductor stone, containing its bound air elemental, generates a powerful repulsion field that pushes against other nearby conductor stones. When stones are embedded in the ground at regular intervals, typically every 50 feet, they create what artificers call a repulsion corridor. The lightning rail coaches contain master conductor stones in their undercarriages, and when a coach moves over the embedded track stones, the repulsion between them lifts the coach several inches off the ground, while the bound air elemental within the coach's stone propels it forward along the predetermined path. The construction of the first lightning rail line between Fairhaven and Flamekeep stands as one of the greatest engineering achievements in Galifar's golden age. You travel backward through time to 811 years of the kingdom, when construction crews began the monumental task of laying conductor stones across hundreds of miles of varied terrain. The route connected Fairhaven, the elegant capital of what would later become Ondair, with Flamekeep, the holy city of Thrain and seat of the Church of the Silver Flame. This choice reflected both practical considerations and political symbolism. Connecting two major cities of different character demonstrated the lightning rail's potential to serve diverse populations and purposes. The construction challenges were immense, though perhaps the artificers and planners of that era underestimated just how difficult the work would prove. Every mile required clearing land, grading the roadbed to precise specifications, and embedding conductor stones at exact intervals. The tolerances were extraordinarily tight. Variations of more than a few inches in stone placement could disrupt the repulsion field's balance, causing coaches to scrape against the ground, or worse, lose stability entirely. Earth elementals helped reshape the landscape where necessary, while teams of surveyors, using precision instruments, verified every measurement multiple times. The most delicate work belonged to the stone placement teams. You observe as these specialists carefully position each conductor stone into its housing within the track structure, ensuring perfect alignment with its neighbors. The stones must be oriented precisely, their repulsion fields calibrated to create smooth, consistent lift across the entire route. Each stone is tested immediately after installation, using diagnostic equipment that measures repulsion, field strength, and directional focus. If a stone fails to achieve proper resonance with its neighbors, it must be removed and replaced or recalibrated, a process that can consume hours and significantly delay construction progress. The success of that first Fairhaven Flamekeep line exceeded even optimistic expectations. When the inaugural journey was completed, carrying dignitaries, merchants, and curious citizens eager to experience this marvel of artifice, the response was overwhelming. The journey that had traditionally taken more than a week by caravan was completed in approximately 1 day, and passengers experienced comfort and safety that conventional overland travel could never match. The coach glided smoothly above the conductor stones, its motion so steady that passengers could read, write, or dine without difficulty, despite traveling at 30 miles per hour, a speed that seemed almost reckless to those accustomed to walking pace caravans. The demonstration's success triggered an explosion of lightning rail expansion across Galifar. In 845 year of the kingdom, King Jarrod, the last monarch to rule united Galifar before the last war tore the kingdom apart, announced his intention to see the lightning rail connect every corner of his realm. This was an ambitious mandate, requiring House Orion to dramatically expand operations and invest enormous capital in construction projects across the continent. But House Orion rose to the challenge, completing the king's vision in less than 20 years through a combination of improved construction techniques, expanded workforce, and the sheer determination that characterized the dragon-marked house at the height of its power. The expanding network transformed Khorvaire's geography in profound ways. Lines extended from the original Fairhaven Flamekeep route to connect with Passage, House Orion's ancestral home and operational headquarters. From Passage, new routes reached south to Sharn, the magnificent city of towers in Breland, and east toward what was then Sire, the jewel of Galifar, centrally located and economically vibrant. Other lines connected Adder in Karnev, crossed into the Eldine reaches, and pushed toward frontier regions where civilization met wilderness. By the time King Jarot's vision was realized, a traveler could board a lightning rail coach in Sharn and reach nearly any major city in Galifar within a few days, a capability that would have seemed impossible just decades earlier. House Orion established specialized divisions to operate and maintain this vast network. The Trailblazers became legendary teams of scouts, surveyors, and artificers who explored potential routes, assessed terrain challenges, and laid the conductor stones that would extend the lightning rail into new territories. You meet these individuals in your mind's eye. Tough, resourceful people who spent months in wilderness regions, facing dangers from hostile creatures to severe weather, all to push the network's boundaries ever outward. But the most critical personnel were those who maintained the existing network. Conductor stones, despite their durability, required regular inspection and occasional replacement. The air elementals bound within them didn't truly deteriorate, but the arcane matrices containing them could weaken over time, especially in regions where environmental conditions proved harsh. House Orion developed a corps of specialized artificers, sometimes called stone singers for their ability to sense the health of conductor stone networks through quasi-magical intuition, who traveled the routes detecting problems before they caused coach failures or accidents. The lightning rail coaches themselves evolved significantly during these early decades. The first coaches were relatively crude conveyances, functional but lacking the amenities that would later define lightning rail travel. As House Orion gained experience and confidence, they invested in increasingly sophisticated coach designs. Different classes of accommodation emerged: first-class compartments with private sleeping arrangements and fine dining, standard seating offering comfort without luxury, and steerage providing basic transportation for working-class passengers at affordable rates. This stratification reflected Khorvaire's social hierarchies, but it also demonstrated the lightning rail's democratic potential. Even the cheapest tickets granted access to rapid transit that had previously been available only to the wealthy or those with access to teleportation magic. The success fundamentally transformed not just transportation, but House Orion's position within Khorvaire's power structures. The house accumulated enormous wealth through passenger fares and freight charges, wealth that translated into political influence and the ability to shape continental commerce. Some scholars suggest House Orion's control of the lightning rail made it one of the most powerful organizations in Galifar during the 9th century, rivaling even the royal house itself in practical terms. Yet this success also planted seeds of future conflict. As House Orion's power grew, questions emerged about whether a single dragon-marked house should control such critical infrastructure. These concerns remained largely theoretical during Galifar's unified era, but they would resurface with devastating consequences when King Jarot's death in 894 year of the kingdom triggered the succession crisis that became the Last War, a conflict that would test the lightning rail beyond anything its creators had imagined. Section 2. The Great Routes across Khorvaire. The map of lightning rail routes stretches before you like a vast web of connection and commerce. Each line representing decades of House Orion's vision and investment. You trace these routes with awareness that they've been shaped not just by engineering considerations, but by the political geography of Khorvaire itself, the relationships between nations, the strategic importance of cities, and the economic forces that drive continental trade. As you board coaches traversing these routes, you experience the diversity and complexity of Khorvaire in all its manifestations. The main Breland line remains one of the busiest routes in the entire lightning rail network, connecting Sharn with the nation's capital and extending northward toward Onder and Thrain. Your journey begins at Terminus Station in Lower Sharn, a massive structure built into the cliffs of Dura, where the city of towers meets solid ground. The station sprawls across multiple levels, with passenger platforms on the upper tiers and freight facilities carved into the rock below. You descend broad staircases past vendors hawking everything from travel provisions to good luck charms. The smell of roasted meats and fresh pastries mingling with the distinctive ozone scent that accompanies active conductor stones. The northbound coach glides away from Sharn with characteristic smoothness, the bound air elementals engaging the conductor's stone network with their steady hum. Within moments, you're moving through the industrial districts that ring Sharn's base, past foundries and warehouses, the landscape gradually opening into the agricultural heartland of central Breland. The route follows the ancient Orion trade road, upgraded and straightened where necessary to maintain the precise grades the lightning rail requires. 212 miles north of Sharn, approximately 7 hours into your journey, the coach arrives at Rote, Breland's political capital. Rote Station reflects the city's governmental importance. You enter a dignified building constructed in classical Galifar architecture, its halls adorned with portraits of Brelish kings and historic moments from the nation's past. The station serves as a major hub where multiple routes converge, creating constant activity as passengers transfer between lines heading in different directions. Diplomats carrying official documents hurry between platforms. Merchants negotiate deals in the station's commercial spaces, and families reunite after separations measured in weeks or months. From Rote, the line continues northward through increasingly contested borderlands. This region saw heavy fighting during the last war, and evidence of that conflict remains visible: fortified villages, watchtowers along the route, and occasional ruins of settlements that didn't survive the century of warfare. The coach passes through Sword Keep, a fortress town that serves both military and commercial functions, before reaching the border region where Breland meets Aundair. The journey from Rote to Passage, House Orion's ancestral home in Aundair, covers over 1,500 miles and requires more than 2 full days of travel, including necessary stops for provisions and crew changes. Passage emerges from the landscape as the spiritual center of the Lightning Rail network, the city where House Orion's leadership resides, and where the house's influence permeates every aspect of civic life. The station here surpasses all others in symbolic importance, if not always in size. You enter through archways inscribed with House Orion's motto in multiple languages, walking across polished floors, where subtle magical effects create gentle guiding lights for passengers navigating the complex. The central concourse rises 3 stories high, its walls displaying historical documents and artifacts related to the Lightning Rail's development and expansion. From Passage, lines radiate in multiple directions, like spokes from a wheel's hub. The western route continues to Fairhaven, Aundair's elegant capital, a journey of approximately 461 miles, requiring around 15.5 hours. This route carries you through Aundair's heartland, regions where druidic traditions blend with arcane sophistication to create landscapes of carefully maintained natural beauty. The rail line winds through forests where ancient trees have been preserved rather than cleared, and past estates where noble families maintain country houses surrounded by gardens that showcase horticultural artistry. Fairhaven Station stands as perhaps the most aesthetically refined in the entire network. Built during Aundair's golden age, when the nation invested heavily in cultural and artistic development. The station combines practical functionality with architectural beauty. The main hall features pale stone carved with reliefs depicting Aundair's history and achievements, while the platforms are covered by graceful canopies that filter sunlight into patterns that shift throughout the day. Even utilitarian spaces like freight handling areas show attention to design principles that other nations might reserve for palaces or temples. The eastern routes from Passage carry you toward Thrain, and here the Lightning Rail takes on religious dimensions that reflect Thrain's character as a nation defined by faith in the silver flame. The line passes through landscapes dotted with churches and shrines, through towns where daily life revolves around religious observance and church authority. Approaching Flamekeep, Thrain's capital and the seat of church power, feels like entering sacred space even before the massive Cathedral of the Silver Flame comes into view on the horizon. Flamekeep Station sits in the cathedral's shadow, that enormous structure whose central spire rises nearly 1,000 feet into the sky, visible for miles across the surrounding plains. The station's architecture reflects Thrain's religious character, austere compared to Fairhaven's artistic sophistication, but possessing dignity rooted in proportion and craftsmanship rather than ornament. The walls bear quotes from the Silver Flame's sacred texts, reminders that travel itself can be a form of pilgrimage, and that journeys should be undertaken with proper spiritual preparation. Church officials maintain permanent offices in the station, offering blessings to departing passengers and spiritual counseling to those who seek it. From Flamekeep, routes extend northward into regions that were heavily contested during the last war. The line toward Thaliost, a city that changed hands multiple times during the conflict and remains a point of diplomatic tension between Thrain and Ondair, carries you through borderlands where military presence remains visible years after the Treaty of Thronehold officially ended hostilities. Fortifications built during the war still stand, now serving as customs posts and border checkpoints, where passengers face documentation requirements and sometimes delays based on their nationality or stated business. The eastern lines push toward Carnav, entering terrain that reflects that nation's unique character shaped by military tradition and the controversial embrace of necromancy as national policy. Crossing from Thrain into Carnav requires passing through border stations where the cultural shift becomes immediately apparent. You see undead laborers working alongside the living, performing maintenance tasks and manual labor with the tireless efficiency that made them valuable to Carnav's war effort. This sight unsettles many foreign travelers, but Carnav citizens regard it as perfectly practical, even necessary, given the nation's economic challenges. The route continues to Korth, Carnav's capital, a city defined by military efficiency and the stark realities of a nation still recovering from the last war's enormous costs. Korth Station reflects this utilitarian character, built like a fortress, with thick walls and defensive positions, emphasizing function over aesthetics. Military personnel are omnipresent, both living soldiers and undead troops who stand in perfect stillness until activated by their commander's orders. The station's architecture prioritizes rapid movement of personnel and supplies, with platforms designed to handle military logistics as efficiently as civilian transportation. From Korth, the line extends south to Adder and beyond to Vedekar, then continuing toward what was once Eastern Sire before the morning destroyed that nation. This southern extension passes through regions where Carnav exercises varying degrees of control, and where the proximity to the Mournland creates constant unease. The landscape shows increasing signs of the magical catastrophe's lingering effects. Occasional patches of dead earth where nothing grows, wildlife exhibiting subtle mutations, and the pervasive sense that reality itself remains scarred by whatever force destroyed Sire. The routes through the Talenta Plains serve different purposes than those connecting major cities of the Five Nations. The halfling tribes who dominate this region resisted permanent settlement and large infrastructure projects for generations, viewing them as incompatible with their traditional nomadic lifestyle. House Orion's construction of lightning rail lines through the Talenta Plains required extensive negotiations with tribal leaders, resulting in routes that carefully avoid sacred sites and traditional migration paths. The stations along this line tend towards smaller facilities serving primarily as freight transfer points, where Talenta dinosaur products, hides, bones, meat shipped to markets across Khorvaire. Gatherhold represents the major hub in the Talenta Plains, a permanent settlement unusual in a culture that traditionally emphasizes mobility. The lightning rail station here reflects the compromise between halfling culture and House Orion's commercial interests, built with materials and in styles that honor Talenta aesthetics while providing the facilities continental trade requires. From Gatherhold, the line once continued east toward Metral, Sire's magnificent capital, but that route now terminates at the Mournland's border. The conductor stones beyond that boundary, having failed catastrophically during the morning. The southern routes connect Breland with Zilargo, that gnome nation renowned for intelligence networks and industrial efficiency. The line from Sharn runs south and east through coastal regions, where the lightning rail occasionally offers spectacular ocean views, the track running parallel to beaches and cliffsides. Zilargo's stations reflect gnomish engineering philosophy, compact, efficient, filled with clever mechanisms that automate tasks requiring manual labor elsewhere. Moving walkways synchronize with arriving coaches. Freight handling systems use minimal personnel, and information displays employ illusion magic to provide real-time updates in multiple languages. Korenberg and Zollenberg serve as Zilargo's major lightning rail hubs, each reflecting different aspects of gnomish society. Korenberg, home to the Library of Korenberg and the nation's intellectual center, sees heavy traffic in scholars and researchers traveling to access the library's vast collections. Zollenberg, nestled in the Seawall Mountains, serves mining operations that extract valuable minerals from the mountain's depths. The station here handles enormous volumes of freight, ore, refined metals, and manufactured goods produced in Zilargo's efficient factories, all moving along House Orion's network to markets across Khorvaire. The Mournland's creation on the day of mourning in 994 year of the kingdom, severed multiple critical rail lines that had connected Sire with all its neighbors. Routes that once carried passengers and freight between New Sire and Metrol, between Eston and the Brelish border, between Making and the Talenta Plains. All these lines now terminate at the dead grey mists, marking the Mournland's boundaries. The conductor stones within that cursed region apparently failed simultaneously, though whether they were destroyed by the morning itself or simply ceased functioning when cut off from the broader network remains uncertain. These truncated lines create unusual situations where stations built as waypoints along longer routes now serve as terminals facing an impassable barrier. Making Station in eastern Breland, originally a modest stop on the route toward what was then Sire, transformed into a frontier outpost where salvagers and researchers gather before entering the Mournland. The station's character changed completely. What was once a sleepy rural stop now bustles with dangerous activity as adventurers, treasure hunters, and scholars prepare for expeditions into the wasteland that Sire became. House Orion maintains these border stations despite their reduced commercial value, reasoning that if the Mournland ever becomes passable again, whether through magical restoration or simple dissipation over time, having intact infrastructure at its borders will prove invaluable. But this decision also reflects the House's recognition that some things transcend immediate profit calculations. The stations serve as memorials to what was lost, reminders that Sire was once the jewel of Galifar, and symbols of hope that continental connection might someday be fully restored. Section 3. The passenger experience and daily life aboard. The whistle sounds its departure warning, and you settle into your seat, feeling the quality of accommodation you've chosen for this journey. House Orion offers 3 distinct classes of service, and your selection determines far more than just physical comfort. It shapes your entire experience of the journey ahead, the people you'll meet, and the way you'll perceive Khorvaire passing outside your window. First-class passengers enjoy accommodations that rival the finest hotels in their luxury and attention to detail. Your private cabin features walls paneled in fine woods, with seats upholstered in soft leather that convert into comfortable beds through mechanical systems operated by attendants. The space includes a small washroom with running water, a remarkable amenity considering you're traveling at 30 miles per hour across varied terrain. Crystal lamps provide steady illumination through captured continual flame spells. Their light warm and pleasant regardless of the time of day or weather conditions outside. A small writing desk folds down from the wall, and House Orion provides quality stationery should you wish to compose correspondence during the journey. The amenities extend well beyond the cabin itself. First-class passengers have access to the observation car, where large windows provide sweeping views of the landscape. Comfortable chairs arranged in small groupings allow you to socialize with fellow travelers, while watching Khorvaire unfold before you: agricultural lands, forests, distant mountains, cities approaching and receding. During daylight hours, the views can be spectacular, offering perspectives on the continent that ground travel at walking pace never provided. At night, the observation car takes on a different character. The darkness outside transforming windows into mirrors that reflect the warm interior, while occasional lights from farms and villages punctuate the blackness. The dining car serves first-class passengers' meals that showcase regional cuisines and high-quality ingredients. Your breakfast might feature fresh eggs and bread, accompanied by coffee or tea imported from across the continent. Lunch brings more substantial fare: roasted meats, seasonal vegetables, preparations that reflect the culinary traditions of whatever region the route traverses. Dinner becomes an occasion: multiple courses presented on fine china bearing House Orion's crest, accompanied by wines selected to complement each dish. The service emphasizes attention and discretion. Attendants anticipate needs without being intrusive, creating an atmosphere of refined comfort. Standard class offers solid accommodations without the luxury that first class provides. You sit in an open coach car where comfortable padded benches face forward, arranged in small compartments that seat 6 to 8 passengers. The seating provides adequate space and cushioning for journeys lasting many hours. Though overnight travel tests the limits of comfort, as the benches don't fully recline. Small tables fold down between facing seats, useful for meals, work, or games passengers might play to pass the time. Overhead racks provide luggage storage, and while the coach lacks the privacy of first-class cabins, the atmosphere often proves more social as passengers share the journey together. Standard class passengers take meals in the common dining car, sharing the facility with steerage travelers, though at staggered times to prevent overcrowding. The food emphasizes substance and quality over presentation. Hearty stews, fresh bread, simple but well-prepared dishes that provide proper nourishment without pretensions to fine dining. The service is efficient rather than elaborate, with attendants taking orders and delivering meals promptly, but without the refined attention first-class passengers receive. The dining car becomes a social space where travelers from different backgrounds might share tables and conversation, creating interactions that wouldn't occur in more segregated settings. Steerage represents the lightning rail's most democratic offering, bringing rapid continental transit within reach of working-class passengers who could never afford standard or first-class fares. You sit on wooden benches with minimal padding, arranged in long rows that pack as many passengers as possible into each coach. The accommodations are utilitarian in the extreme. No compartments or privacy dividers, limited luggage storage, and facilities shared among far more people than comfort would suggest optimal. For overnight journeys, steerage passengers sleep sitting up on the benches, and the combination of crowding, hard seats, and constant minor disruptions from others' shifting position creates an exhausting experience. Steerage passengers bring their own food, and the aroma of various meals mingles with less pleasant scents that accumulate when many people occupy enclosed spaces for extended periods. Despite these hardships, steerage makes the Lightning Rail accessible to farmers traveling to urban markets, laborers seeking work in distant cities, and families whose budgets allow for speed but not comfort. The social atmosphere in steerage tends toward communal. Strangers share food, exchange news from their home regions, and help each other cope with the journey's discomforts through conversation and mutual support. The crew operating the Lightning Rail form a complex hierarchy of specialized roles, each essential to safe and efficient operations. The conductor holds supreme authority aboard the coach, responsible for everything from ticket collection to making critical decisions when unexpected situations arise. Many conductors bear the mark of passage, giving them innate sensitivity to magical transportation systems that proves invaluable when monitoring the Lightning Rail's connection to the conductor stone network. You observe conductors moving through the cars with practiced efficiency, their bearing commanding respect without being intimidating. They check tickets, answer passenger questions, and maintain awareness of everything occurring aboard the coaches under their supervision. Engineers work in less visible roles, monitoring the bound air elementals and conductor stones that actually propel and guide the Lightning Rail. These specialists understand the complex magical systems at levels most passengers never perceive. They use diagnostic equipment to measure the strength of repulsion fields, the responsiveness of bound elementals, and the overall health of the coach's connection to the track network. When readings indicate problems, weak conductor stones along the route, environmental conditions affecting elemental stability, or mechanical issues with the coach itself, engineers make adjustments using control panels inscribed with arcane symbols and equipped with crystalline interfaces. Security personnel provide protection against the various threats that plague Lightning Rail operations. Some coaches employ guards directly hired by House Orion, while others contract with House Deneth, whose dragon-marked mercenaries bring professional military skills to civilian protective duties. You watch these professionals as they patrol the coaches, their trained eyes constantly assessing passengers and situations for potential problems. They wear light armor allowing freedom of movement and carry weapons suitable for close quarters: batons, short blades, and wands charged with spells like sleep or hold person that can neutralize threats without endangering other passengers or damaging the coach. Service attendants form the most visible crew presence for most passengers. These men and women circulate through the coaches offering refreshments, answering questions, assisting with luggage, and attending to the countless small needs that arise during travel. Skilled attendants develop almost intuitive abilities to anticipate requirements, appearing with water when someone looks thirsty, offering assistance with crying children before parents become too frazzled, providing reassurance to nervous first-time travelers. The work demands physical stamina, patience with difficult passengers, and the ability to maintain pleasant demeanor despite long hours and repetitive tasks. The dining car staff operate under unique pressures, preparing and serving meals in facilities that move at 30 miles per hour across terrain that isn't always smooth. Cooks work at stoves designed with special features to prevent spills and accidents, gimbaled surfaces that remain level despite the coach's movement, secured pots that won't slide during turns or sudden speed changes, and magical heat sources that respond more precisely than conventional fires. The menu planning reflects practical constraints, ingredients that travel well, preparations that can be executed in limited space with compact equipment, dishes that remain appetizing even if timing gets disrupted by unexpected delays. Daily life aboard the Lightning Rail develops rhythms shaped by the journey's duration and the class of service you've chosen. Morning begins with gradual stirring as passengers wake from whatever rest the accommodations allowed. First-class travelers emerge from private cabins refreshed from comfortable sleep, while steerage passengers shake off stiffness from nights spent on wooden benches. The dining cars fill with travelers seeking breakfast, and the atmosphere takes on energy as people prepare mentally for the day ahead. The midday hours bring peak activity throughout the coaches. Business travelers work at fold-down tables, reviewing documents or drafting correspondence they'll post at upcoming stations. Families entertain children with books, games, or stories. Groups of friends share conversation and laughter. The observation car fills with passengers seeking diversion, watching the landscape transform as the Lightning Rail traverses different regions. You notice how regular travelers, those who make this journey frequently for business or family reasons, often bring work or reading material, treating the travel time as productive rather than merely something to endure. Station stops provide welcome breaks from the coach's confines, opportunities to stretch legs and breathe air that hasn't been circulating through enclosed spaces. You disembark at a regional station, joining other passengers on the platform, while House Orion crew handle routine servicing, replenishing water and supplies, performing quick inspections of critical systems, managing passenger boarding and departures. The stops typically last 15 to 30 minutes, enough time to purchase refreshments from platform vendors, mail letters, or simply move around freely. The conductor's whistle eventually calls passengers back aboard, and stragglers hurry across the platform with purchases or packages acquired during the brief respite. Evening brings changes in atmosphere and activity as daylight fades. Attendants move through the coaches, adjusting window coverings and lighting lamps that will illuminate the interior through the night. First-class passengers might dine in the formal seating, while standard and steerage travelers eat simpler meals suited to the day's end. As darkness settles outside, the coaches take on more intimate character, the external world disappearing beyond the windows. Attention turning inward to the social dynamics and personal activities happening within the lit coaches. Overnight journeys create particular challenges and experiences depending on your class of service. First-class passengers retire to converted sleeping arrangements, beds made up with fresh linens by attendants, while passengers were elsewhere. The private cabins provide genuine rest. The coach's smooth motion and steady hum of conductor stones, creating surprisingly conducive sleeping conditions. Standard class passengers attempt rest in seats that recline partially, but don't fully flatten, using provided pillows and blankets to achieve whatever comfort the accommodations allow. Steerage passengers face the most difficult nights: hard benches, crowding, and the accumulated discomforts of shared space, making genuine sleep nearly impossible for many. Based on what we know about the physical toll of steerage conditions, we can assume that passengers arriving after overnight journeys in these accommodations would feel the effects of exhaustion and insufficient rest. The social dynamics aboard the Lightning Rail create fascinating interactions between people whose paths might never cross in other contexts. The enclosed space and shared journey create temporary communities where conversations develop between strangers. You witness a Brellish merchant exchanging market intelligence with an Ondarian trader, both calculating opportunities for profit. A Thrain priest engages in respectful but spirited theological discussion with a wizard trained in arcanics. Their different worldviews creating intellectual friction that remains civil. Young people from different nations strike up friendships based on shared interests rather than political allegiances. Their interactions suggesting possibilities for understanding that transcend the last war's lingering hostilities. But tensions also surface, reflecting Khorvaire's social and political divisions. Passengers sometimes express prejudices through subtle behaviors, requesting seat changes to avoid sitting near certain races or nationalities. making comments that reveal deep-seated biases, or simply maintaining cold distance from those they consider inferior or threatening. The crew generally intervenes only when such tensions threaten to disrupt the journey through overt conflict, preferring to manage problems quietly rather than creating scenes that disturb other passengers. The journey's end brings mixed emotions, relief at reaching your destination, perhaps regret at leaving temporary friendships formed during travel, and anticipation of whatever awaits in the city or town where you'll disembark. The coach glides into the station with the same smooth motion that characterized the entire journey. The bound air elementals disengaging from the conductor's stone network as the vehicle comes to rest alongside the platform. Doors open and passengers stream out carrying their luggage, some greeted by friends or family, others consulting maps as they orient themselves in unfamiliar territory. The crew prepares the coach for its next departure, cleaning, restocking supplies, performing maintenance checks, and the cycle begins again. Section 4: Economic Revolution and Political Consequences. The transformation the lightning rail brought to Khorvaire's economy cannot be overstated, and you witness this revolution in the bustling freight yards that adjoin every major station. Before the rail's arrival in 811 year of the kingdom, transporting bulk goods across continental distances required wagon caravans that moved at walking speed, vulnerable to weather, bandits, and the simple exhaustion of draft animals. A merchant shipping manufactured goods from Sharn to Flamekeep faced weeks of uncertainty, their cargo exposed to countless risks, while transport costs consumed significant portions of potential profits. The lightning rail changed these calculations so fundamentally that entire industries relocated, trade patterns shifted, and economic specialization reached levels previously impossible. You stand in a Sharn freight terminal during the golden age before the last war, watching crews load cargo coaches with practiced efficiency. These specialized coaches lack passenger amenities entirely, their interiors designed as open spaces where crates, barrels, and containers stack efficiently from floor to ceiling. The bound air elementals beneath function identically to those powering passenger coaches. But freight operations prioritize capacity over comfort, running longer trains with more coaches coupled together. A single freight run from Sharn to Passage can carry more cargo than dozens of traditional wagon caravans, and complete the journey in a fraction of the time at dramatically reduced cost. The economic implications ripple across every sector of Khorvaire's economy during the decades when the lightning rail network operates at full capacity. Agricultural producers in fertile regions like central Breland suddenly gain access to urban markets hundreds of miles distant. their crops reaching consumers while still fresh enough to command premium prices. You watch farmers in the countryside around rote-load crates of vegetables and fruits onto lightning rail freight coaches, knowing these goods will appear in Fairhaven markets the next day. This expanded market access encourages agricultural specialization. Regions focus on crops best suited to their climate and soil, rather than trying to produce everything locally. Because the lightning rail makes it economically viable to trade surplus production for goods from elsewhere, manufacturing industries undergo even more dramatic transformations. Factories no longer need to locate near both raw material sources and consumer markets. The lightning rail makes it feasible to ship materials to centralized production facilities and then distribute finished goods across the continent. You observe this pattern in Sharn's industrial districts during the height of Galifar's unity, where foundries import ore from distant mines, process it into steel, manufacture everything from tools to weapons to structural components, then ship finished products to buyers across Khorvaire. The economies of scale this enables drive down production costs while increasing product quality and variety, creating prosperity that benefits producers and consumers alike. House Orion itself becomes one of Khorvaire's wealthiest and most politically influential organizations through its control of the lightning rail network. The house structure that governs dragon-marked families grants them certain exclusive rights to operate services related to their marks. And while House Orion doesn't hold absolute monopoly, other houses like Lyrandar operate airships, and conventional caravans still serve some routes. They dominate continental overland transit to a degree that makes them essential to Khorvaire's economic functioning. The revenues generated through passenger fares, freight charges, station operations, and ancillary services combine to produce wealth that elevates House Orion's leadership among the most powerful figures in Galifar. But this dominance plants seeds of political tension that will bear bitter fruit when Galifar fractures. National governments during the unified kingdom view House Orion's lightning rail as beneficial infrastructure serving the realm's interests. As the dragon-marked houses grow in power and wealth, however, questions emerge about whether any private organization should control such critical continental systems. These concerns remain largely theoretical during King Jarot's reign, but the succession crisis following his death in 894 year of the kingdom transforms abstract political philosophy into urgent strategic calculation. The last war begins when King Jarot's heirs cannot agree on succession, and what might have been resolved through negotiation instead escalates into armed conflict that will consume Khorvaire for over a century. The lightning rail, designed as an instrument of unity and commerce, suddenly becomes a strategic asset that every nation seeks to control or deny to their enemies. You sense the shift as the war's outbreak transforms lightning rail operations from routine commercial service into contested military resource. Military forces from the emerging nations, Onder, Breland, Thrain, Sire, and Carnaf, immediately recognize the lightning rail's value for moving troops and supplies. House Orion finds itself pressured from all sides as governments that were recently unified under Galifar now make competing and often contradictory demands. Onder insists that House Orion deny lightning rail access to Thrain military units. Breland threatens to nationalize rail lines within its borders unless House Orion provides preferential rates for Brelish freight. Carnaf requisitions entire coaches for troop movements, displacing civilian passengers and commercial cargo. House Orion's attempts to maintain neutrality and continue serving all nations prove increasingly untenable as the war intensifies. The House leadership understands that choosing sides explicitly would make lightning rail infrastructure a legitimate military target, inviting attacks that could destroy the network they spent generations building. But refusing to choose also carries consequences. Nations angry at perceived favoritism toward enemies begin seizing control of rail sections within their territories, forcing House Orion personnel to operate under military supervision or face arrest and property confiscation. The war's progression brings direct attacks on lightning rail infrastructure as military strategists recognize that denying enemy access to rapid transportation provides significant advantages. You witness these attacks escalating from initial sabotage attempts to systematic campaigns aimed at destroying key routes and junctions. Conductor stones become targets for specialized military units, teams of artificers and soldiers who understand the lightning rail's technical systems well enough to cause maximum disruption with minimal effort. Removing or damaging even a few conductor stones can disable entire route sections, forcing House Orion to invest time and resources in repairs, while traffic reroutes around damaged areas. Major rail junctions become flashpoints for military operations as armies fight for control of strategic positions. The battles for Varna on the Breland-Onder border see the station change hands multiple times, each transition marked by destruction as retreating forces sabotage infrastructure to deny it to advancing enemies. Similar patterns repeat across Khorvaire, stations fortified and defended, then destroyed when defense proves impossible, then partially rebuilt only to be targeted again when military fortunes shift. The economic disruption compounds over years, and then decades of continuous warfare. Trade routes that once connected the continent fragment as national borders harden and become militarized zones. Merchants who built businesses on continental trade find their markets cut off, unable to ship goods across battle lines, even when rail lines remain physically intact. Industries dependent on inputs from multiple regions struggle, and sometimes collapse entirely when supply chains break. The prosperity the lightning rail enabled during Gallifre's unified era evaporates as war economy priorities override commercial considerations. House Orion suffers enormously during this period, though the damage goes beyond mere financial losses. The house's identity was built around connecting Khorvaire, around the belief that rapid transportation would strengthen bonds between distant regions and peoples. The last war perverts this vision, transforming the lightning rail from symbol of unity into instrument of military logistics and target for destruction. This could imply a profound demoralization within House Orion's leadership and membership, watching their greatest achievement weaponized and systematically damaged. The day of mourning on the 20th of Olaroon, 994 year of the kingdom, delivers a catastrophic blow that transcends even the accumulated damage of a century of warfare. On that day, the nation of Sire, centrally located, economically vibrant, the jewel of old Gallifre, vanishes behind walls of dead gray mist in a magical catastrophe whose cause remains unknown and debated. Over 1 million people perish, including everyone within Sire's borders, except those who escaped through magical means, or happened to be on the very edges when the mourning occurred. Some survivors fled aboard lightning rail coaches in the final moments, trains racing toward borders as reality itself seemed to break down behind them. The lightning rail network suffers immediate and devastating losses. Multiple major routes ran through Sire, connecting the nation to all its neighbors and forming critical links in the continental system. These routes don't just serve Siren interests. They provide essential connections, allowing traffic to move between eastern and western Khorvaire without lengthy detours through congested northern junctions. When the morning transforms Sire into the Mournland, these routes cease to exist. Based on what we know about conductor stone networks requiring continuous connection, we can reasonably infer that the stones within the Mournland either failed catastrophically during the mourning itself, or lost their connection to the broader network when the magical disaster severed them from neighboring sections. House Orion's immediate response involves desperate attempts to assess the damage and reroute traffic around the now impassable gap where Sire once stood. Rail lines that terminated at borders with Sire become useless stubs, their final stations transformed into frontier outposts facing an inexplicable magical wasteland. The sheer scale of the loss overwhelms the house's capacity to respond effectively. Hundreds of miles of conductor, stones destroyed or rendered inaccessible, major stations obliterated, and the personnel who operated Siren sections of the network dead along with their nation. The day of mourning shocks all sides in the last war, demonstrating that the conflict has unleashed forces beyond anyone's control or comprehension. Though fighting continues for 2 more years, the intensity diminishes as nations recognize the existential danger they all face if the mourning represents a weapon that could be used again. The Treaty of Thronehold, signed on the 11th of Arith, 996 year of the kingdom, officially ends the last war and establishes new political realities for post-war Khorvaire. The lightning rail network that emerges from the war bears only superficial resemblance to its pre-war condition. You trace the fragmented routes on post-war maps, seeing how once continuous lines now terminate at hostile borders, damaged sections, or the Mournland's impassable boundaries. The continental network that once allowed travel from Sharn to Flamekeep to Korth in continuous journeys now requires multiple transfers, lengthy border inspections, and routes that detour around politically sensitive territories or physically destroyed infrastructure. House Orion faces the enormous challenge of rebuilding while operating in this fragmented political landscape. The House lacks the capital to simultaneously repair all damaged infrastructure, forcing difficult decisions about which routes receive priority for restoration. Lines serving major commercial centers and national capitals get restored first, while rural routes serving smaller communities remain damaged or abandoned indefinitely. Some nations demand that House Orion pay reparations for perceived favoritism during the war, while others propose joint reconstruction projects where governments provide funding in exchange for increased oversight of House Orion's operations within their territories. The monopoly House Orion once held over continental transportation faces new and serious challenges in the post-war era. House Lyrandar's airship operations expanded dramatically during the war to meet military transport needs that the damaged lightning rail network couldn't fulfill. Now, in peacetime, those airships compete directly with the lightning rail for passenger and freight business. Airships offer advantages the rail cannot match: direct point-to-point routing without following fixed infrastructure, ability to bypass ground-level obstacles and borders, and the psychological appeal of flight itself. House Lyrandar aggressively markets these advantages, positioning airship travel as modern and flexible compared to the lightning rail's ground-bound limitations. House Orion must emphasize its own advantages to retain market share in this new competitive environment. The lightning rail moves far more cargo per trip than any airship, making it more economical for bulk freight despite slower speeds. Rail travel offers greater comfort and more extensive amenities for passengers willing to accept longer journey times compared to airship transit. The fixed infrastructure, once viewed as a limitation, now provides reliability. Rail schedules remain consistent regardless of weather conditions that can ground airships for days. House Orion invests what resources it can spare in improving passenger experience, upgrading coaches where possible, and promoting the Lightning Rail as the civilized, dependable choice for discerning travelers. Political fragmentation proves harder to overcome than economic competition. The post-war borders create bureaucratic complications for international travel that didn't exist under unified Galifar. Passengers crossing from Breland into Thrain face customs inspections, travel documentation requirements, and sometimes denial of entry based on nationality or perceived security concerns. Freight shipments crossing multiple borders accumulate tariffs and inspection delays that erode the time and cost advantages rail transport once offered. House Orion lobbies national governments to ease these restrictions, arguing that continental trade benefits all nations and that facilitating commerce serves everyone's interests. But post-war suspicions and nationalist sentiments keep many barriers in place. The Mournland Gap remains the most visible and symbolically powerful reminder of how the last war shattered continental unity. Plans for routing new rail lines around the Mournlands perimeter face obstacles that seem nearly insurmountable given post-war political and economic realities. An eastern route would pass through regions where territorial claims remain disputed. A western route would cross the Tailanta Plains, requiring extensive negotiations with halfling tribes who historically resisted large infrastructure projects. Even if these political obstacles could be overcome, the massive investment required exceeds House Orion's available capital, and national governments prioritize domestic reconstruction over international infrastructure projects that would primarily benefit other nations. Section 5. Perils, Mysteries, and the Path Forward. The threats facing Lightning Rail operations extend far beyond political disputes and economic competition, and you experience these dangers as your coach slows unexpectedly while traversing a remote stretch of track through wilderness territory. The conductor moves through the cars with practiced calm, explaining that scouts have spotted potential hazards ahead, and the coach will proceed at reduced speed while guards conduct reconnaissance. This scenario plays out regularly across the Lightning Rail network, a reminder that the infrastructure enabling rapid continental transit also creates vulnerabilities that hostile forces and opportunistic criminals actively exploit. Bandits represent the most persistent mundane threat to Lightning Rail security. You understand that coaches carry valuable cargo and wealthy passengers, making them attractive targets for organized criminal groups. The most successful bandit operations involve careful planning. Someone within House Orion's organization or the passenger community provides intelligence about high-value shipments or notable travelers, allowing bandits to strike specific coaches at vulnerable points along their routes. The attacks typically occur in remote sections where the rail line passes through terrain offering concealment and escape routes. Far from stations where reinforcements might respond quickly. The methods vary in sophistication and audacity. Crude operations simply block the track with obstacles, fallen trees, or constructed barriers piled high enough to disrupt the repulsion field, forcing the coach to stop where armed bandits can surround it and make demands. More sophisticated groups employ magic users who understand conductor stone systems well enough to disable sections remotely, bringing coaches to halts without visible obstruction. The most dangerous attacks involve infiltration, bandits posing as passengers or crew members who reveal their true intentions. Once the coach reaches predetermined locations where Confederates wait in ambush. House Orion's security response evolved dramatically during and after the last war. The guards aboard modern Lightning Rail coaches receive extensive combat training and access to magical equipment that gives them significant advantages over common criminals. You observe these professionals as they maintain vigilance throughout journeys, their eyes constantly scanning for suspicious behavior or environmental anomalies that might indicate impending attacks. They work in coordinated teams using communication crystals that allow instant contact between guards in different coaches, enabling rapid response when threats emerge. But some threats surpass what conventional security measures can handle. The wilderness regions through which many rail lines pass harbor monstrous creatures, viewing the Lightning Rail as territorial intrusion or convenient hunting opportunity. Winter wolves sometimes stalk coaches passing through their territories, their supernatural intelligence allowing them to identify vulnerabilities and coordinate pack attacks. Larger predators pose greater dangers. Reports exist of young dragons attempting to disable coaches, viewing them as both potential food source and targets for establishing dominance over territories the rail lines traverse. The Talenta Plains present unique challenges where Lightning Rail routes cross halfling tribal lands. The Fastiath, enormous dinosaur-like creatures native to the plains, occasionally attack conductor stones for reasons that remain debated among naturalists and artificers. Some scholars suggest the magical energies within the stones attract the creatures, while others propose that Fastiath perceive the stones as threats to their territories. Regardless of motivation, these attacks create genuine problems for House Orion. A single Fastiath can damage or destroy multiple conductor stones before being driven off. And the remote locations where attacks occur mean repairs often require days or even weeks to complete. The Mournland's proximity creates unique and terrifying hazards for rail lines operating near that cursed region. Living spells, magical effects that somehow gained autonomous existence during the morning, occasionally wander beyond the dead gray mists. These phenomena represent perversions of normal magic. Spells like Cloudkill or Lightning Bolt that move with apparent purpose and attack anything they encounter. You hear accounts from conductors and guards who faced these abominations, describing how normal defensive measures prove ineffective against threats that aren't truly alive, yet respond to stimuli with disturbing purpose. Creatures warped by the morning also pose threats when they emerge from the Mournland. These beings defy normal categorization, animals fused with mechanical components, humanoid shapes twisted into nightmare configurations, entities that flicker between multiple states of existence. Some attack with mindless aggression, while others display disturbing intelligence and apparent curiosity about the lightning rail and its passengers. House Orion maintains standing orders that coaches approaching Mournland borders should accelerate to maximum speed when passing the closest sections, minimizing exposure time to whatever might emerge from the mists. The conductor stone network itself becomes a target for sabotage operations, motivated by various purposes. Destroying even small sections of conductor stones can disable entire route segments, forcing House Orion to reroute traffic and invest significant resources in repairs. During the last war, military forces from various nations regularly sabotaged enemy rail lines as part of strategic campaigns to disrupt logistics and troop movements. The techniques developed during wartime persist in the post-war era, employed by terrorists, insurgents, and those seeking to damage House Orion's interests for personal or political reasons. The security challenge involves protecting hundreds of miles of exposed conductor stones, many in remote locations where guards cannot be permanently stationed. This could imply that House Orion relies heavily on regular patrols, divination magic to detect sabotage attempts, and relationships with communities along rail routes who might report suspicious activity in exchange for protection or economic considerations. But even comprehensive security measures cannot prevent all attacks. Determined saboteurs with adequate resources and knowledge can always find vulnerable sections. Historic incidents illustrate the real dangers facing lightning rail operations. The Fairhaven Rail disaster of 968 year of the kingdom stands as one of the worst accidents in the network's history, though the specific details remain somewhat obscure in public records. based on what we know about House Orion's tendency to minimize publicity around major incidents, we can infer that the disaster involved significant loss of life and likely resulted from either mechanical failure or sabotage, rather than simple operator error. The incident prompted reviews of safety procedures and potentially led to technological improvements in conductor stone monitoring systems. The post-Last War era brings new mysteries and concerns related to the routes that once served Sire. Salvagers and researchers who venture into the Mournland occasionally report seeing what appear to be lightning rail coaches moving through the cursed landscape. Ghostly trains that travel on conductor stone networks that should no longer function. Whether these reports represent genuine supernatural phenomena, hallucinations induced by the Mournland's reality warping effects, or misidentification of mundane objects, remains subject to debate. House Orion officially dismisses such stories as superstition, but the House's Special Investigative Division quietly documents and researches anomalous phenomena associated with the lightning rail. Some passengers and crew report disturbing experiences near the Mournland borders, feelings of being watched, glimpses of shadowy figures in the mist, sounds of distant screams or mechanical noises that seem to come from nowhere. These accounts share enough common elements to suggest something real underlying them, even if the exact nature remains uncertain. This could imply that the mourning created some form of spiritual or planar residue that manifests most strongly near transportation infrastructure. Or perhaps that the massive loss of life when Sire was destroyed left psychic impressions that sensitive individuals perceive. The Mournland Gap represents not just a physical barrier to continental rail travel, but an ongoing challenge that House Orion must address to fully restore the lightning rail network. The gap spans hundreds of miles from north to south, and no known method allows safe passage through the dead gray mists. Conductor stones within the Mournland either failed during the morning itself or lost connection to the broader network when magical catastrophe severed them. Some artificers theorize that rebuilding routes through the Mournland might be possible if the fundamental causes of the mourning could be understood and countered. But such understanding remains elusive nearly 30 years after the disaster occurred. House Orion periodically funds expeditions attempting to map routes around the Mournland's perimeter. But these efforts face seemingly insurmountable obstacles. The eastern approach requires extensive negotiations with the Lazar principalities, whose various princedoms and pirate lords view House Orion's interests with suspicion and demand fees that would make the route economically unviable. The western route crosses the Talenta Plains through regions where halfling tribes maintain fierce independence and resist large infrastructure projects that might disrupt their traditional lifestyle and sacred sites. Another potential solution involves the White Arch Bridge, a massive structure that once connected Thrain and Carnaff across the Bray River. The bridge was destroyed during the last war, victim to the conflict between those two nations over the disputed city of Thaliost. Rebuilding the bridge would restore a critical connection in the lightning rail network, allowing traffic to bypass the Mournland Gap by routing through northern territories. But the bridge project faces political obstacles that rival the engineering challenges. Thrain and Carnaff remain hostile toward each other despite the Treaty of Thronehold. And the status of Thaliost continues generating diplomatic tensions that make cooperation on bridge reconstruction difficult. Modern restoration efforts focus on repairing and upgrading existing rail lines, rather than attempting the dramatic projects that might fully reconnect the network. House Orion prioritizes routes connecting major economic centers, recognizing that limited resources must be invested where they generate maximum returns. You witness these restoration projects in progress, teams of artificers replacing aging conductor stones with improved versions that offer greater efficiency and reliability. Engineers upgrading stations with modern amenities and enhanced security features. Diplomatic envoys negotiating agreements to ease border crossing procedures and reduce tariffs on international freight. Some restoration work carries profound symbolic importance beyond immediate economic benefits. The reconstruction of stations destroyed during the last war sends powerful messages about recovery and renewal. When major terminals reopen after extensive repairs, the ceremonies often draw officials from multiple nations, all acknowledging that rebuilding infrastructure of peace matters as much as maintaining military preparedness for potential future conflicts. Similarly, the reopening of border stations represents small but significant steps toward normalizing relations between nations that recently fought each other with desperate intensity. Diplomatic negotiations around lightning rail access and operation reveal both progress and persistent challenges in post-war Khorvaire. House Orion hosts regular meetings where representatives from the treaty nations discuss issues ranging from standardized customs procedures to coordinated responses against banditry and monster threats. These gatherings occasionally produce genuine breakthroughs, agreements to share intelligence about threats to rail security, joint funding for critical infrastructure repairs, or eased restrictions on travel documentation for low-risk passengers. But deeper issues like the Mournland Gap or potential military use of rail lines during future conflicts remain unresolved, with each nation unwilling to compromise on matters considered fundamental to security interests. The future of the lightning rail depends on House Orion's ability to to adapt to post-war realities while maintaining the vision that inspired the network's creation. You see signs of innovation in experimental projects scattered across the network. New conductor stone formulations promising greater efficiency and reliability. Automated safety systems using permanent magical sensors to detect obstacles or sabotage attempts. Specialized coaches designed to operate near the Mournland with enhanced protection against living spells and warped creatures. House Orion also invests in training programs to develop the next generation of conductors, engineers, and specialized personnel. Recognizing that the Lightning Rail's long-term success requires maintaining expertise in the complex technical and magical systems that make it function. Competition from House Lyrandars, expanding airship operations, forces House Orion to emphasize the Lightning Rail's advantages while acknowledging areas where air travel proves superior. Airships offer speed and flexibility that ground-based transportation cannot match. But the Lightning Rail moves vastly more cargo per trip, provides greater comfort for passengers on long journeys, and operates reliably in weather conditions that ground airships. The two transportation systems might ultimately serve complementary rather than directly competitive roles. Airships for passengers prioritizing speed and direct routing. The Lightning Rail for bulk freight and travelers who value comfort and affordability over rapid transit. The Lightning Rail's legacy transcends its practical function as transportation infrastructure. It represents an ideal that Khorvaire's diverse peoples and nations can find common ground through commerce and shared experience. The network's fragmentation during the last war demonstrated how quickly that ideal could shatter under political pressures and military necessity. But its survival, however, diminished, and the ongoing efforts to restore and expand it suggest that the vision retains power even in this complicated post-war era. Your journey aboard the Lightning Rail, whether measured in hours or days, connects you to countless others who have traveled these routes before you. The conductors and crew who ensure your safe passage, the artificers and engineers who maintain the conductor stone networks, the diplomatic envoys who negotiate the agreements making international travel possible, the passengers sharing coaches with you, all participate in this ongoing experiment in continental connection. The Lightning Rail endures not because it's perfect or even fully functional, but because enough people across Khorvaire continue believing that the alternative, isolated nations, severed trade routes, barriers to travel and communication, represents a future nobody wants. So as your coach glides into the station and your current journey ends, you carry with you the understanding that the Lightning Rail's story continues, shaped by everyone who chooses to travel its routes, support its restoration, or simply believe that Khorvaire's people deserve better than the divisions that defined the last war. The bound air elementals hum beneath countless coaches at this very moment, carrying travelers across the continent. And that steady rhythm represents possibility for commerce, for understanding, for a future where the lightning rail again connects rather than divides. Until next time, safe travels wherever the rails may take you.